This is an event that happens once in a generation or once in a lifetime. It's a red alert weather day, folks. We've got a lot to talk about, and we're going to get into all of it right now. This is a high-risk weather day, folks. We have got a lot of weather hazards to talk about, including a generational event that is going to unfold over the next several days across multiple states. We're going to take a look at all of that, but first I want to thank you for being here. This is Cold Rain's Weather World, the only feel-good internet weather show that leaves you smarter, happier, and more confident. And you heard that right, folks, more confident. So we're going to get into all the weather today. Thank you again for being here. Leave us a like. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already, and leave a comment in the comment section. It can be a question about the show, a suggestion, or a prayer request, something I can pray over for you. So happy to do all of that. We've got a lot of weather to get into, and we're going to start, as I said, we're going to leave you smarter, and we always start with our Weather IQ question. And today's question is about tornadoes appropriately. So the question is, what percentage of tornadoes in the U.S. are classified as EF0 or EF1? 90%? 60%, 40%, or 80%. I'll have the answer at the end of the show. If you know it already, though, write it in the comments section. Now, as I said, we're under the threat of multiple severe weather hazards over the next few days, including a rare high risk for a tornado outbreak this afternoon and evening. We have a generational event that's set to unfold over the next few days as well across multiple states. And not to get lost in the shuffle, a winter storm is underway up here in the northern plains. You can see on our alerts map today, Minnesota, the Dakotas, you all are under a winter storm warning for as much as 12 to 14 inches of snow up here in the northeastern sections of Minnesota. The amounts trail off as we get back into the Dakotas. Winter weather advisories extend around that, up into the Great Lakes in the northeast, where you could see some light snow and mixed precipitation. This storm is strengthening out in the plains, and the wind field around it, again, is very large. And so on the eastern side in the warm sector, where there's good mixing winds, surface winds, even outside of thunderstorms, could gust 40 to 50 miles per hour. And so we're seeing lots of wind advisories, as I suspected they were going to be issued. They have been for portions of the Mississippi River Valley into the mid-south. And fog down here in Georgia, so take it slow if you're driving around there, as well as in southern Mexico and Texas, red flag warnings, high winds out here, dust is blowing around, so drive carefully. Tornado watches are already up in Oklahoma and Missouri, Arkansas, where you're seeing the severe thunderstorms already underway. If we take a look at our satellite picture, much of the nation is socked in with cloud cover. This storm system, you can see this winding up in the plains, big line of storms forming along the dry line. You can see the bright white cloud tops represented there. Snow up here in the north, clouds moving across much of the east, clouds coming into the west as systems continue to emerge out of the Pacific and land in California. If we look at our radar imagery here, see that line of storms that has really developed over the course of the morning, bringing severe weather to eastern Oklahoma, moving into Springfield, out of Kansas City, and about ready to move into another Springfield, Missouri, Springfield, Illinois, out of Des Moines. Madison, you guys are under the gun with rain. Chicago, you're about to dry out. Bay City, snow. Fargo, snow. Bismarck, Minot, Duluth, all snowing at this hour, and some light rain and snow showers out in the western part of the country. Snowfall totals this morning, we're going to hit this quick and move on. Anywhere from 2 to 4 inches in the Dakotas, as much as 6 to 10 inches through Minnesota, and really the northeastern tip of Minnesota, you're looking at as much as 12 to 14 inches here. A few pockets of 1 to 3 to 4 inches across the Great Lakes into the northeast, and of course out in the Rockies as well. But the big threat today, the big story, is the severe weather outlook, and a high risk has been issued from places like Little Rock up into Memphis to Union City to Cape Girardeau. So we've got a very, very serious situation shaping up this afternoon. Lots of wind shear, lots of instability is going to create a high risk of not just weak tornadoes, but strong tornadoes, EF3 or higher. We're expecting to see quite a few of those. The moderate risk area extends around that, all the way from southwestern Arkansas up here into Indiana, including Gary and places like that. So be on the lookout anywhere in the moderate risk and in, but especially Little Rock to Memphis to Union City to Cape Girardeau. And then an enhanced risk exists around that. We expected that, I said this on the show yesterday, I expected to see an upgrade, but I didn't expect to see a high risk. I'll be honest with you about that. Going back here and taking a look at our tornado threat, 30% chance in the high risk. That's really, really high. The hatched area is, of course, significant tornadoes. EF2s are higher, and we're expecting to see long track violent tornadoes through the course of the afternoon and evening. 15% risk around that. Wind, large area of 30% with potentially seeing gusts of 70 miles per hour up to 80 plus in some cases as these storms begin to coalesce later this evening and overnight into a line. You could see a wind threat pick up there. And then hail, baseball size or larger in the hatched area, 30% chance of hail. So a significant high-end severe weather threat, level 5 out of 5 severe weather threat today. Looking at our temperatures this afternoon, chilly across the north where it's snowing, 30s and 40s back out into the west, below normal there. Above normal to the south and southeast, we're seeing temperatures surge from the 80s up to the, well, we're getting 80s up into Tennessee, up into the southern portions of Illinois with 70s around that. So we're seeing plenty of warm air to help fuel instability. Looking at our, looking at the wind speeds aloft, when you look through the atmosphere, for a tornado outbreak, you need to see good increasing winds aloft and good turning with height. And we're certainly seeing that in spades today. This big jet streak coming in at 500 millibars, over 100 knots, in some cases over 120 or 30 knots, moving into Nebraska and Iowa, Missouri, up into the Great Lakes as we go through the course of the afternoon. This is 7 p.m. at night, 7 p.m. this evening. And you're seeing that jets continue to persist through the overnight hours. Eventually, as we get into the wee hours of the overnight, it will move out of the south and begin to translate in the Great Lakes. Eventually, that will weaken. In the meantime, in the right entrance region of these jet streaks, you see enhanced lift. So anywhere in these areas here, you're seeing enhanced lift as we get into the evening. And this is where the high risk is. So we're seeing plenty of lift, plenty of wind shear with height, plenty of instability. As a matter of fact, if we take a look at our low-level winds here at 850 millibars, big jet here as well. We're talking about 60, 70, even close to 80 knots. Very strong wind. As those thunderstorms move into that, they're going to feel that wind. They're going to rotate. They're going to bring that wind down to the ground. So if we put this into the course, over the course of the day, look at this Arkansas, Tennessee, Illinois, Indiana, lots and lots of strong winds in the low levels and the mid levels that will abate as we get into the evening hours, but it still exists. It still persists, even though it diminishes somewhat in strength, it still persists over the course of the evening through much of Tennessee into the Ohio Valley. And look, it just continues to move off as we get into close to tomorrow morning. And so the threat will diminish somewhat overnight, but in terms of the tornado threat, but the wind threat, the storms will continue to persist. I can't stress enough, you must have a way to be weather alerted when weather alerts happen for your area. You got to keep your phone with you. You got to pay attention today in the high risk area. It's a very dangerous situation we're looking at. Cape values, plenty of Cape this afternoon. Mixed layer Cape just shoots up. We're seeing 3,000, 3,500 joules per kilogram. That's incredibly strong Cape. So these thunderstorms are going to have plenty of instability to work with. We'll move this along into the evening hours, and Cape diminishes as we get on into the evening and into tomorrow. So the threat will continue to persist overnight. This isn't going to die out, but we're still going to see plenty of thunderstorm activity through the night. So keep your phones handy and charged. Make sure you have a plan for evacuation. Listen to what's going on through the day. Our significant tornado parameter, all we need is this blue area. This is one to give us a chance of significant tornadoes. And look what we've got: reds, pinks, purples. And this area just expands as we go through the afternoon. This is getting close to the evening hours, 5 or 6 p.m., 4, 5, 6 p.m. Significant tornado threat is possible anywhere in this area. But look down here, we're seeing values of over 6 in Arkansas. Arkansas, you guys are under the gun. This even gets higher than that. We're getting close to 7 in some of these areas here. So as we get into the evening hours, into the overnight, the significant tornado parameter diminishes as we lose a little bit of instability and the wind fields weaken as those jet streaks move off to the north and east. But this afternoon, we've got plenty of wind shear going up into the atmosphere, wind increasing with height. We've got plenty of turning, given the low-level structure of the winds. Strong supercells are going to develop eventually that'll coalesce into segments and line segments and begin to diminish the tornado threat and increase the wind threat. Hail is going to be a possibility as well. Looking at how all of this plays out over the course of the afternoon today, let's go back a little bit here. So this afternoon, you're seeing a line of thunderstorms already developing this morning. That's going to continue to push east. And notice how the cells appear to be broken out. These are supercells the model is trying to depict here. So be careful as we go through the afternoon. Supercells with potentially strong tornadoes, long track tornadoes. This really explodes over the course of the afternoon. Look at all of these supercells here on the map in Arkansas into Tennessee. And eventually we're going to start to see some of that activity coalesce into a line as we get through the evening hours. See how it kind of coalesces into these line segments. So that's what we're looking at today. Tomorrow, temperatures going up into the 70s and 80s across much of the South again. So the threat is going to be kind of in the area along this boundary of higher temperatures, cooler temperatures back to the north. So there's our slight risk of severe weather tomorrow for tornadoes, 5%. So you can see the threat is diminished tomorrow. Wind, 15%. Hail is the threat down here back in Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas. There could be an upgrade here. So pay attention if you live in these areas for tomorrow. Up here to the north, where we see the threat in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, there's some question marks about instability that will be determined over the course of the afternoon into the overnight hours to see how convection develops and moves into these areas. It could overturn the atmosphere. So that's what we're looking at there. Looking at our winds tomorrow. So this is at 500 millibars. Looking as we go through the into tomorrow morning. This is tomorrow morning about 7 or 8 a.m. You see the winds not quite as strong tomorrow. They still persist over the afternoon up here in the Great Lakes. So that's why we have a severe threat up there, even though Cape fuel for thunderstorms might be diminished. And then just a persistent jet streak here. And then over as we look into tomorrow evening or tomorrow morning into the afternoon, our Cape values are predominantly higher in Texas, Arkansas, and Louisiana, Mississippi. So that's where the threat kind of exists tomorrow in terms of the main area of focus. So pay attention in Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Eastern Texas. So pay attention out there. And that is your severe weather threat. And we've got severe weather that'll continue to remain in the picture for the next few days. We'll take a look at that too. But first, we're going to look at our fun fact of the day. So this is our Do You Know? And today's Do You Know is about rainfall. And I found this, I thought it was interesting. A place where it never rains. Do you know that there's a place where it never rains? I didn't know that, but I found it out. Parts of the Atacama Desert in Chile have not seen measurable rainfall in over 500 years. So if anybody asks you, does it rain everywhere? You can say the answer is no. We've got drought in the United States, but not quite that dry. Anyway, wanted to share that with you. I thought that was interesting. Now, getting on into the rest of the work week, our temperature profile continues to look like, if we look on Friday, this looks very much like Thursday, warm across the south and southeast, mild across the middle portions of the country up from, middle Atlantic over into, I guess, portions of the desert southwest, and then chillier out west as a trough kind of starts to set up out west. Same scenario on Saturday. So getting into the weekend, a nice, warm sector here in the southeast, chilly across the north. And the warm sector begins to get squeezed out as we get on into the end of the week. 80s, potentially some record-setting highs here in the Carolinas, parts of the southeast, as we could see some areas approaching 90 degrees. We'll see how much cloud cover exists at the time of these, when it would be normally at high temperature time around 4, 5 o'clock. But we could see clouds limit that and maybe not get us quite to the severe or the record highs that we're potentially anticipating. Now, looking at the severe weather threat for the rest of the week, certainly it persists. So moves back into Texas up into the mid-Mississippi Valley on Friday, Saturday. Again, a potentially more enhanced risk as we see some wind energy being injected in here into the pattern. And on day 4, which is Sunday, and then on day 5, which is Monday, or Sunday rather, we'll see a 15% risk back here in the southeast. And we could see a little bit more on Monday before the whole entire severe weather episode gets on out of here. Looking at something that I don't usually show, this is the precipitable water. So we talked about a generational event earlier. Those aren't my words. Those are the words out of Little Rock. Little Rock does a great job with their weather discussions, the National Weather Service, and they've talked about this generational or lifetime flooding event, something that you don't see but once every 50 or 100 years, and that's what's happening. And we've got a large warm sector, a large area of southerly flow bringing in lots of rich moisture out of the Gulf of Cold Rain. And so we're seeing lots and lots of rain along with a stalled frontal boundary. So you've got this frontal zone that sort of sits, it's going to be sitting somewhere in here like this, and you're going to see a focus, it's going to act as a focus for showers and thunderstorms developing over the same areas. That'll move around a little bit, but generally looking at it, precipitable water, this is water vapor integrated over the entire layer of the atmosphere. And so the green colors indicate above normal and really strong or high precipitable water. You get high values of precipitable water, you get high rainfall rates and so forth. So you can see some of these reds popping up, yellows and reds popping up in here. So look at this. As we go on through the week, this is Thursday afternoon into Thursday evening, Friday. Look at this. It just sort of sits. The axis of this most rich moisture content sort of sits. You can also see that where you have some of these greens, you're going to have cloud cover. So we're going to see a mix of clouds and sun over much of the southeast and mid-Atlantic as well as we go through the week. Friday afternoon, see the axis shift back maybe a little bit west, get on into Saturday, back into Arkansas again. So Arkansas, you guys are the primary focus for this, unfortunately, but really we've got a band of precipitation that's going to persist through much of the Ohio Valley and Mid-South as well. Saturday, finally we start to see this push on east and move out of the picture. And so that yields rainfall totals. We've got a couple of models to show you. Look at this. European model putting down 7 to 9 inches of rain, almost 10 inches of rain in some of these spots from Indiana back to Arkansas. Look at this. Lots and lots of rain is going to fall over the next several days. You all are under a particularly dangerous situation, flash flood watch. That's very unusual, but there's going to be so much rain in these areas. You can see the European showing that we're going to see life-threatening flooding. This isn't necessarily a Helene situation, but it's going to be very serious and potentially catastrophic for some areas. River flooding, flash flooding. Please, please, please don't drive through roadways that are flooded. Look at the GFS here. It's showing 16 inches up here in into Kentucky and Tennessee. 7-8 inches back into Arkansas. So it puts the focus a little bit to the northeast. But the bottom line is tons of rain is going to fall in these areas. The Weather Prediction Center has issued its rainfall outlook for the next 7 days, and we're looking at 10 inches, 7 to 10 inches over a wide swath, and we're going to see higher amounts, much higher amounts in some spots where thunderstorms kind of sit and train. Just can't really predict those spots exactly. Looking at the excessive rainfall outlooks, a moderate risk of excessive rainfall today. Tomorrow, a high risk of excessive rainfall. This is unusual again. So right here in the corner of Tennessee and Arkansas up into Kentucky, pay attention, but a moderate risk exists. A slight beyond that continues to persist on into Saturday, Sunday as well, or Saturday into Sunday. Sorry, that was Friday into Saturday, Saturday into Sunday. Same areas getting hit, and then finally we get on into Sunday to Monday. We start to see that shift out, but tons and tons of rain are going to fall. Don't let that story. Don't let the tornado threat and all the severe weather, which is very important, take your awareness away from the flooding threat that's going to exist, because that could be far more reaching than tornadoes. Tornadoes, a lot of tornadoes miss everything and just sort of go into areas where we're not really, they're not populated, and tornadoes only are a small area. Flooding exists over a wide plain, so be very, very careful. Your background wind threat as we go through the course of the week, you can see where the highest winds are going to be, 20s, 30s, 50s in this red area, potentially 60s. So if you get lots of flooding, lots of high winds, gusty winds, you're going to see trees come down, you're going to see power outages. So that's what it looks like, folks. Getting on into the end of the week, we're looking at our jet pattern, trough out west, ridge in the east, and this jet pattern just sort of sits in place. That's why you've got all this severe weather and all of these thunderstorms, waves of energy and high winds in the jet, come through and enhance the tornado threat, and then that moves away and it kind of slacks off a little bit. So you've got a severe weather threat in the east, big warm sector, cool out west. Eventually, as we get on into Sunday, that starts to push east. We've got a big ridge going up out west, trough in the east. and then that just goes on off, and you can see how that develops. Going to be warmer out west, cooler in the east. And so that's our pattern. That's our upper level pattern. You can see this put into motion. Look at that ridge out west as we go through time. We get on into mid-April, still see some ridging out west and troughing in the east. So we could see average to below in the east, warmer out west. In our temperature maps, you can see that play out here in the temperature maps. That gets squeezed out as we get into next week. We start to get some cooler anomalies in the east. We get on out into mid-April, cool in the east, warm in the west. So it sort of bears out what I was showing you, and that sort of it averages out over time. So that is our that's our show for today, folks. Please, please, please take care if you're in Arkansas, in Tennessee, Western Tennessee. Very rocky, rough afternoon. Stay weather aware. Stay weather aware through the night tonight, tomorrow night as well. We're going to have thunderstorms exist in times when we don't normally see such severe weather as well. So pay attention for the flooding threat too. And that brings us to our Weather IQ question, where we're going to wrap up with the answer to that question. You remember the question? It was about tornadoes, appropriately. What percentage of tornadoes in the U.S. are classified as EF0 or EF1? 90, 60, 40, or 80? And the answer is 80%, which is thankfully the case of tornadoes are classified EF1 or lower. This afternoon, we've got a much higher risk than normal of seeing EF3s or higher, and we expect to see some of those. So pay close attention, stay weather aware, and keep safe through the afternoon. Remember, this is Cold Rain reminding you other stations cover the weather 24/7. We've got you covered 48/14 right here at Cold Rain's Weather World. Stay safe, everyone. Have a good afternoon.